Warning! This video will be talking about 9/11, the moon landing, the assassination of JFK, the deep state, and many other conspiracy theories. So don't let the CIA catch you watching this.
Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and A Clockwork Orange has died.
Stanley Kubrick was a very influential director. His movies are no doubt stood the test of time for many reasons, but to say that his death was shocking would be an understatement. But don't you think it's rather strange that Stanley Kubrick's last movie, Eyes Wide Shut, had a scene like this in it? It could just be a coincidence, or he tried to warn us about something big. Although Eyes Wide Shut was more explicit with it exposing the rich and elite that secretly rule our society, Kubrick did this with all of his films, though. In such movies as Halves of Glory, in which Stanley Kubrick warned us about what will happen if we embrace globalism and start a bunch of meaningless wars in order to basically fill the pockets of a bunch of fat cats who really could care less about the lives they just wasted. Or Dr. Strangelove, in which it shows us the horrific consequences of us putting our trust in world leaders who clearly know nothing about the jobs they were just given. And they are clearly untrustworthy, as are shown in the movie. Not only that, but they are extremely incompetent too. And when we give them deadly weapons into the equation, this is what it leads to. Or in The Shining, in which Stanley Kubrick tried to warn us about the CIA's experiments on normal people, trying to create essentially chaos and trying to see how the human mind works. He was basically trying to expose MK Ultra. This was made clear in a deleted ending to The Shining. Let me just show you some photos of that real quick. But none of this could compare to what Stanley Kubrick tried to warn us with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Two, 1, 0, all engine running. Liftoff, we have a liftoff, 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Now, before we address the allegations that Stanley Kubrick predicted 9/11 in his film 2001: A Space Odyssey, we must address the conspiracy theory that the moon landing was faked and Stanley Kubrick filmed it. because, you see, the moon landing, although wasn't fake, it was originally supposed to be faked. Let me explain. So during the 60s, NASA hired Stanley Kubrick in order to essentially fake the moon landing, but this ultimately fell through because Stanley Kubrick realized that faking the moon landing's a lot harder than doing the actual moon landing. But things don't end there for Kubrick, however, because what most people might not consider is that Stanley may have uncovered something that he probably shouldn't have. Stanley Kubrick found out about Project Northwoods. For those of you who are wondering what Project Northwoods is, Project Northwoods was a conspiracy theory in which the US government was planning on staging a terrorist attack in order to get America into a fake war. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Now, granted, it is unclear how Stanley Kubrick found out about Project Northwoods, but that does not matter. But what is clear is that Stanley Kubrick knew he had to do something in order to get the American public aware of this. And it was a dangerous mission too, because JFK tried to stop it, and we all know how that went. Stanley Kubrick knew he had to find a way in order to tell people about what he discovered. But how? This was probably like a game of chess to Stanley. He had to think smart in order to not get caught, but he also had to make it obvious that he was trying to warn people so that people would pick up. How would they know about what the CIA was planning to do to the American people? How could he possibly warn them? And then Stanley had an idea. He'll put in a secret message in his latest movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, in order to warn people about what is to come. It was genius. It may just save people's lives. But how did he do it? Well, let's look at some things with a whole new context. In the movie, the main villain is a cold calculating machine known as HAL 9000. HAL 9000 is an interesting villain because although his actions are very much malicious and get many people killed, it's also strange because he acts as if he was programmed to do these things. Strange, isn't it? Almost as if their maliciousness was programmed into them, and not something that they want to do themselves. Also, during 2001: A Space Odyssey, we see 4 different monoliths throughout the whole film. 4 different places were hit by airplanes during September 11th. Coincidence? I think not. We could also talk about the name 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I'm pretty sure Stanley Kubrick thought that 9/11 was going to happen sometime during his lifetime. Given what we know now, it makes a few things from Stanley Kubrick's personal life make a bit more sense now, doesn't it? Like why he moved to England. It could have been to get away from the CIA's control over Tinkletown back in like the 50s and to today. Yeah, the CIA still kind of controls Tinkletown today, sorry to burst your bubble, guys. And after doing his play, Stanley Kubrick can only watch and see how 2001 would unfold. Would people get his warning? Would people see how dangerous the CIA truly was?
april 1968 is de première van 2001 A Space Odyssey. Het is een van de zeldzame keren dat Kubrick zich nog in het openbaar laat zien.
We started in 1965, early 1965.
This was it for Kubrick. If people didn't understand what he was trying to say with this movie, then America, if not the whole world, was essentially screwed. If people didn't get his warning, it will all be too late. World history, American history, will be changed forever. And although I want to tell you this had a happy ending, I think we all know what happened next.
We've seen it from the front angle before, but not from this angle.
Although the CIA never found out that Kubrick knew about Project Northwoods, neither did the public, because everyone thought Kubrick just made a movie. They didn't know he made something that was trying to tell them about the danger the CIA posed to them until it was too late. After 2001 A Space Odyssey, Kubrick tried again and again to warn us about the CIA and the rich elite and where their lies and corruption are taking us as a society. In A Clockwork Orange, Kubrick tried to warn us about where liberalism is leading us to. In The Shining, Kubrick tried to warn us about how the CIA is secretly trying to make us lonely and desperate enough to kill each other. In Full Metal Jacket, Kubrick tried to warn us about how corporatism and corporate greed go hand in hand with the military-industrial complex. And don't forget, in Stanley Kubrick's last film, he featured a scene that felt eerily similar to one of the Rothschilds' most infamous parties. When Stanley Kubrick made Eyes Wide Shut, that was the moment his luck ran out. Although Stanley Kubrick never saw what could have happened on September 11th, I'm pretty sure he would have known it would have happened eventually.
We want to tell you what we know as we know it, but we just got a report in that there's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City.
Kubrick's warnings have been ignored, and the consequences for that were disastrous for the 21st century. Although Kubrick hadn't been there for the event, I picture if he had been, he would have been crying, knowing that he could have done more to prevent such a tragedy from occurring. And sadly, it doesn't end there.
Some breaking news right now. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City. Epstein was facing sex trafficking charges. NBC News investigative correspondent Tom Winter now has the very latest. Tom, what more do we know?
That tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the shoe have an abbreviated list.
Let's also talk about one conspiracy theory that suggests that this virus is actually man-made in a lab. What's your take on that?
I think conspiracy theories make me very, I was going to say angry, but I guess it makes me sad because they are distractors. The virus is actually one of many emerging viruses that we've seen all around the world. It really is just a distracting thing to think about whether or not somebody made it, which I really don't think. It's actually as an infectious disease doctor. It's just part of what we're doing as we go more into areas that man wasn't inhabiting before. You're going to unearth viruses. It's a recurrent theme and a recurrent story over and over again. So
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that
every day, no matter how hard you try to deny it, one thing becomes more and more clear. Kubrick was right about everything, and that's not even the end of his predictions. Because before Kubrick died, he wrote a screenplay, and that screenplay would then get adapted into a movie by Steven Spielberg. And guess what that movie is about? And isn't it strange how in the movie they show a scene of artificial intelligence harming people? What could Kubrick be predicting about AI? Maybe we should try and stop it this time.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain, dancing in the rain. Yeah, 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 yeah.